This is Hino's Sport, bringing you that heat and that fire. We keeping a foot on the what? On the next. We keeping a foot on the what? On the next. Now let's get on to it, man. We got to talk about it, man. LeBron James and James Harden. And the prediction king strikes again. And the prediction king strikes again. Hino's Sport was telling you guys, man, but you guys wasn't paying attention and you wasn't listening. We have to sit here and we have to do what we call the order of operations when we think of alphas and when we think of betas on the basketball court. What is James Harden and what is LeBron James' role? James Harden is what you call a pure beta supreme on the basketball court. LeBron James is what you call a high octane beta, aka alpha wannabe. Basically, what LeBron James is a least beta variation, meaning he gives the masqueration. He gives you this similitude or this thing to make you think he's an alpha on the basketball court, but really he's not. Because he gives you a similitude of what it looks like, but he's lacking the fullness thereof. Meaning, when you look at him, he gives you this kind of fakery that he is this complete superstar basketball player, right? That he can deliver when it's all said and done. That he can basically dominate when it's all said and done, but he really can't. Then we have to look at James Harden. James Harden has proven himself to be a bona fide choker. This is what we call a basketball version of a Zab Judah, aka Tony Romo. That's what he is. Every time James Harden has stepped up to the plate and every time James Harden has been there to deliver the goods, you know what's happened to him? He's non-existent. See, that's the cold-hearted, that's the unadulterated, and that's the cutthroat truth-telling fashion. So when the Los Angeles Lakers won the second game, this was not a mystery. This was exactly what was going to happen. So you guys have to understand and put it in your brain. The NBA is going to make sure that there is a Lakers versus a Clippers Western Conference Finals. This stuff is so obvious, even Ray Charles can see this shit, man. You guys have to understand the money that's behind Clippers versus Lakers. There's no way no damn Denver Nuggets or no damn Houston Rockets are going to get past either the Lakers or the Clippers. That shit ain't happening. This is why you see the Clippers are using Denver Nuggets as batting practice. The Los Angeles Lakers are not a great team like that. But you have to understand financially what a LeBron and an AD versus a Kawhi and a Paul George looks like. Really, I really want you guys to sit back and think for a second. You really think the NBA wants to see Kawhi and PG versus James Harden and Russell Westbrook? Things that make you say, Or let's just switch it up on another equation here. Do you really want the NBA to look at this so that they want a series where it's, let's see, LeBron James and AD versus Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic? Things that make you say, You see how the balance is not adding up here? The equation is not adding up here, folks. So that tells you an underlying and an undercurrent truth here. That when you look at the Lakers and you look at the Rockets, someone is going to go past the round and someone is not. And what team do you think? Don't give me this, I can't stand LeBron. You know what I'm saying? LeBron James, he needs to go sit down somewhere and higgity fucking hush. LeBron James, he's going to get done up. I don't want to hear all of that. We have to look at what makes sense from a marketable standpoint. We have to see what makes sense when it's all said and done. And what makes sense is Lakers are not losing to no fucking Rockets. This was just like the last round when the Los Angeles Lakers faced Dame Dollar. I don't know why folks thought that Dame Dollar, who lacks the super in front of star, was going to get past the Los Angeles Lakers. That shit wasn't going to fly. It wasn't going to happen. This is the same dichotomy with James Harden. James Harden couldn't get past another high-octane beta, aka Alpha Wannabe, and Stephen Curry. So how did you think he was going to get past LeBron James? LeBron James is the highest iteration of what we call a high-octane beta, aka Alpha Wannabe. He is basically the darling of the NBA, or the darling of the NBA. You don't get past a guy like that. So the bottom line is this. We have to call a spade here. We have to keep it real, and we have to keep it a buck. Let's look at the Lakers. Let's look at what the Lakers bring to the table. Let's look at the Rockets, and let's look at what they bring to the table. You got two guys in James Harden and freaking Russell Westbrook that are pure beta supremes. And you put them together, and they both have selfish-minded, oriented fashions. We saw this in game 2. What did Russell Westbrook do? What Russell Westbrook always does. He takes the ball, he forgets everybody else exists, and then he Westbricks all over the damn place. See, if Russell Westbrook would have knew his freaking place as the Robin that he was, then he wouldn't be in this position. Kevin Durant would still be with him in OKC. This is why Russell Westbrook is no longer an Oklahoma City Thunder, and why he is now a Houston Rockets, and soon to not be a Rockets. Because Russell Westbrook never understood his role and his place, that he's a number 2 option. It's the same thing with James Harden. James Harden is basically borderlining between a number 2 and a number 3. But NBA fans, they don't want to hear this shit. They think that these guys are legitimized superstars. To be a superstar, you have to be dominant on both sides of the equation, offensively and defensively. This is what denotes superstarship. And if you can't give elite ability on the offensive and the defensive side, then you have to remove the super in front of the star. So when we look at James Harden, is he allergic on the defensive end? That's an emphatic yes. So he is not a superstar. James Harden is what you call an all-star, because James Harden has been a star for a number of years. See, there's levels to this stuff. Like Meek Mill say, there's gears, y'all. And the gears is this. We can't call somebody a terminology that doesn't apply. Superstar doesn't apply to James Harden because he was never that. You get it? When we think of superstar in the NBA, you have to think of the Kevin Durant of the world. You have to think of the Kawhi Leonards of the world. And I'm sorry to say this, but you have to think of the LeBron James of the world. These are the people that are what we would consider superstars. Then you have all-star level players. The James Hardens of the world. You see what I'm saying? The Russell Westbrooks of the world. These are all-star level players. Then you have your star level players, which is like people like Dame Dollar. You see? There's levels to this stuff. There's gears. Stop giving people titles that don't belong to them. I can't believe that people think that James Harden, who has nutted up every playoff after every playoff, every year after every year, this guy is going to be the guy that's going to turn things around. Stop the presses and pump the brakes on the nonsense. Go sit down somewhere and what? You know, in the finger wagging. Higgity fucking hush. The bottom line is this. Russell Westbrook and James Harden ain't beating no LeBron James and AD. That's the cold-hearted, that's the unadulterated, and that's the cutthroat truth teller fashion. This is He Knows the Sport. Checking out.